Om. Om. Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavai, Tejasvina Vaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. O beloved Lord, make it so. So, good morning, everyone. So good to see you this Saturday morning. Rather chilly and inclement here in Atlanta, but spring is about to be sprung, so we'll have some better weather, no doubt. Again, thank you for gathering this morning to read together and discuss Swami Prabhavananda's translation of and commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The title of the book is How to Know God. We're on Chapter 1, Sutra 16, his exposition of what Patanjali meant by that sutra, which you can review on your own if you like. And the Swami has been saying that our individual being and Brahman are one, and that is one with the cosmos. So he's about to explain what is this cosmos. What is this cosmos? What is it made of? Vedanta teaches that the cosmos is made of Prakriti, the elemental, undifferentiated stuff of mind and matter. The Prakriti, the elemental, undifferentiated stuff of mind and matter. In other words, all that we can know or experience. Prakriti is defined as the power or effect of Brahman, in the sense that heat is the power or effect of fire. Fire and its power to burn. You can't think of one without the other. Brahman's effect is the universe. Swami Sarvapriyananda was once asked, why does Brahman do this? And his answer was lightly humorous and very like Sarvapriyananda. He said, the answer is quite American. The reason that Brahman does this is because it can. So, Prakriti, that which the stuff of mind and matter, all we can know or sense or interact with, is defined as the power or effect of Brahman, in the same sense that the power or effect of fire, that heat is the power or effect of fire. Just as heat cannot exist apart from the fire which causes it, so Prakriti could not exist apart from Brahman. In the sense that heat is the power, could not exist apart from Brahman. The two are eternally inseparable. The latter puts forth and causes the former. Now, what is the implication for us? We are existing in Brahman with attributes. Our very being, our very bodies, our stardust spacesuits, are made of Prakriti, inseparable from Brahman. So everything that partakes of existence, it's said that Brahman does not exist. Brahman is existence itself. Brahman does not know. Brahman is knowledge itself. Brahman does not love or is not blissful. Brahman is love or bliss itself. So in the language of philosophy and logic, ipso facto, therefore, everything that exists is partaking of that existence that is Brahman. Everything that can be known from the lowest to the highest is partaking of that knowledge that is Brahman. Everything that is love or bliss is partaking of the love or bliss that is Brahman. There is nothing apart from that. They are inseparable. The latter, Brahman, puts forth and causes the former, Prakriti, or the universe, or Maya, or any of the number of other expressions that are used. So, before we go on, it's very important that this be clearly grasped. Are there any questions or comments from your own wisdom or experience? Or, anything to add from your own wisdom or experience, or any question or concern you'd like to raise?
I just have one question.
Yes, dear.
So Prakriti cannot exist apart from Brahman, but can Brahman exist without Prakriti?
It is said that during the when this cycle of manifestation ends, Brahman alone exists, and everything else exists within Brahman as potential. So Prakriti no longer exists in any sense that we would understand existence. It exists only in its potential to manifest again when the next cycle of creation begins. These cycles alternate of manifestation and unmanifestation or no manifestation. So it isn't that Prakriti disappears, but it's like the energy in a battery until there's some connection that allows the energy to come out of the battery. It's just a composite of metals and liquids that store that energy. Well, Prakriti and everything associated with Prakriti, the gunas, and all of manifestation is potential within Brahman during this time of, which is called the night of Brahman. Physicists call it the state of absolute zero, when everything is so far apart, the universe has expanded to such an extent that there is no ability of any part of manifestation to relate to the other. This relationship always takes place in the form of vibration, which is heat, a kind of heat. So when they do not relate to one another and there is no vibration, it is absolute zero. It isn't that there's nothing there, it's simply in, again, potential form. Thank you for asking the question. That's a very good question. Anyone else? Anything?
I have one more question, I guess, about what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, in my little brain, that it exists during that period of that cycle as potential, it still exists. Um, in some way, like you said, we don't understand. But so if there were no Prakriti even in potential form, would Brahman exist? I think my question is, does Brahman, well, Brahman doesn't exist. Never
Brahman does
mind.
not exist. That's right. It is the causeless cause.
All right. Okay. Anyway, okay, let's moving on. Yeah,
Well,
Brahman
no,
is
I
yes,
believe me,
Brahman
dear, I
is
under
existence. Frank is smiling.
it is perfectly understandable how the left mind wants to grasp this, and it is not possible. It is simply beyond mind's grasp. It is not beyond heart's grasp. That is what Patanjali will get to.
And may I add something, Cindy? What you said now I thought was perfect when you said Brahman does not exist. And that's exactly what the Upanishads are saying. Brahman does not exist. Brahman is existence itself. So in its own way, you on a certain level, you are understanding it. But like Brother Shankar just said, the left brain is sort of like trying to make it into sense. But on a certain level, you understand it because you just said Brahman's not existence. And that's what Upanishad says. It's existence itself.
Thank you, Frank. Good follow-up. Anything else? So everyone understands that Prakriti arises from Brahman. There seems to be some intentionality about it, as is expressed in the Chandogya Upanishad, when the cosmic mind, or Brahman, says, I am one, I shall become many. This is when this very thought is what brings the gunas, which were in perfect equilibrium, out of equilibrium. This vibration of thought itself generates the disequilibrium of the gunas, which are the tools of Prakriti. And so Prakriti then arises as the great cause, Mahat, and everything then flows from that. These are the 24 cosmic principles of Sankhya philosophy. We'll get to more of that as the Swami develops these thoughts. anything else. So if everyone's content that they really have a grasp of this, we'll go ahead. Patanjali differed from Vedanta on this point, believing the Purusha or Atman and Prakriti were two separate entities, both equally real and eternal. Since, however, Patanjali also believed that the individual Purusha could be entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti, he was, in fact, in complete agreement with Vedanta. I'm going to read that again because that's a complicated thought. Patanjali differed from Vedanta on this point, believing the Purusha, or Atman as it is called within Patanjali's sutras, believing the Purusha, or Atman, and Prakriti were two separate entities, both equally real and eternal. This is the point of view of Sankhya. Since, however, Patanjali also believed that the individual Purusha, or Atman, could be entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti, he was in complete agreement with Vedanta as to the aim and goal of spiritual life. As Holy Mother says, Sri Sharda Devi, when you no longer want anything at all from Prakriti, from universe, from Maya, when you no longer want anything at all, a thing is a thought, a thing is a desire, a thing is an object. When you no longer want anything at all, you are immediately and completely spontaneously liberated or isolated from Maya. And that which was this individual being dissolves back into the gunas to be recreated as something else, but not as that presence of the Atman. Again, is this point clear? Because Swami is developing a thought here. Just as long as everything's clear, we can go on. And if it isn't clear, that doesn't mean that you're dumb or something. So don't be afraid to ask a question. This is what we mean by studying the art of spirituality together. Let's all be clear so that we are unified in our forward movement.
I don't really understand the second sentence. I get that Patanjali, how he differed, his view differed, because he believed the Atman, Purusha, the Atman, and Prakriti were two separate things.
Which the Vedanta does not believe.
Right. And I get that, but then he also believed that the individual Purusha, so, we talk about my Atman, and then, no, not your Atman. You don't have
Well, it
that
is
part.
and it isn't. That's the most puzzling part about it. That is the paradoxical part.
Well, that must be why I'm stumped there, because he's saying that the individual Purusha or Atman can be entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti, which
In other words, it is not a creation of Prakriti. It is the energy that gives rise to Prakriti. The Atman is that, not its effect.
okay. I
But it's
So
still
when
saying
it's-
that they're separate, right? It's still, the second sentence says they're separate. So I don't understand also why that would be consistent with the fact that they're not separate.
No, we're talking about comparing Vedanta and Patanjali's sutras. Vedanta says they are eternally one, and that in the sense that there is something happening here is a dream. It's not a reality. It is a relative reality in the sense that a dream is a relative reality. Patanjali says, no, this is a reality, but the Swami is saying, when he says that the Purusha could be entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti, which is also an idea within Vedanta, that you can end the dream. You can end the dream of existence and be free of all attachment to this relative existence. That's what he's saying. Purusha, so he also believed the individual Purusha could be entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti. So he was, in fact, in complete agreement with Vedanta as to the aim and goal of spiritual life. In other words, what the Swami would sometimes say in classes and to us was, these things, though they seem different, are a distinction without a difference. It's just a way of thinking about it. And if you want to hear a real dissertation about this, it's only a way of thinking about it, read Carlos Castaneda's first book, The Teachings of Don Juan. When he tries to pin Don Juan Matus, his benefactor, guru in our terms, his benefactor, pin him down as to exactly what he means by seeing or knowing. And Don Juan has tried several ways to describe it. And finally, Don Juan loses patience with him and says, it's only a way of talking about it. You will understand it when you do it. And that's exactly what Sri Ramakrishna was saying to us when he said, all of these questions and paradoxes resolve themselves when you come into the neighborhood of God, which the neighborhood of God, as Sri Ramakrishna also said, is the heart. He also called it the drawing room of the devotee's heart. The devotee's heart is the drawing room of God. So when we grasp with our right brain intelligence or our hearts the truth of the matter, then these questions and paradoxes resolve themselves. And I know that this is elusive. That's the reason I stopped and asked if there are any questions or comments, because this is very elusive. So is there anything else from anyone? This is very good that we're doing this.
Brother Shekara, I have a comment. I just want to clarify with you. Prakriti has all these gunas, and then our surface level behaviors, which is our Atman is intoxic. I mean, we kind of cover up the Atman with all these Prakriti gunas and our surface level behaviors. So as we meditate and get the self-realization, that is what we are entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti to reach the Purusha, which is Atman. Is that
Yes.
what he's talking about?
We are uncovering
Yes.
the truth of ourselves by slowly and slowly dispelling through discrimination and release
Yes.
each of these ideas or attachments or aversions.
Yes.
The ideas are called upadis, coverings. Attachments, aversions, we slowly and slowly identify each one for what it is and release it by our discrimination. This is not the truth. This is this relative truth of the dream or of Prakriti, Vedanta's idea, dream, Prakriti's idea, this relative experience. And, it's interesting to see Adi Shankaracharya walk a very fine line here. The man who brought Advaita Vedanta back into focus after it having been neglected, so to speak, for some time. He walks a very, very fine line saying, it's not that what we experience doesn't exist. It is a relative existence. And other Vedantins, Vashishta and others, say it is a stage play, an act. Sri Ramakrishna said the Vedantas think of this as a dream, which is the way it was spoken of in Sri Ramakrishna's time by the Advaitists. So a dream has a relative existence. As Sri Ramakrishna says, you wake up from a dream in which a tiger was chasing you. You wake up before it gets you and kills you. Your heart is pounding and you are breathing hard. Don't tell me something didn't happen. Something happened. Why? Otherwise, why are you breathing hard? And when someone would say to him in this kind of highfalutin way, oh, all this is just a dream and it isn't real, Sri Ramakrishna would often give them a real severe pinch on the buttock. Just a real severe pinch. And of course they'd go, ouch. And Sri Ramakrishna said, I thought you told me this wasn't real. And when Totapuri was with him, Totapuri was his teacher of Advaita Vedanta, Tota said, everything that we experience is dreamlike, unreal. And yet one night, the two of them were sitting at a Duni fire, a sacred fire, talking, and one of the other yogis who was staying at the Dakshineshwar temple came with a pair of tongs and took a coal from the fire to light his pipe. Well, Tota just went ballistic. He got very angry. What are you doing? What kind of person are you that would come and take a coal from a sacred fire? And Sri Ramakrishna just laughed and rolled on the ground. And Tota said, why are you laughing so? Why are you laughing at me? And Sri Ramakrishna said, didn't you just a few sentences ago tell me that this was all unreal? So we won't grasp it with our left mind. That's not the function of the left mind. Jill Bolte Taylor, in her new book, Whole Brain Living, gives a wonderful definition of what the left limbic system, the lower part of our brain, the so-called reptilian brain and so on, and then the left cerebral cortex, what their function is. And it is not to grasp the nature of reality. It thinks, because we've allowed it, as Einstein said, we've allowed the servant to become the master. It thinks it can grasp and does grasp reality, but it does not. So anything else from anyone? This is perfect. This is exactly what a class should do. Anything else from anyone? Great. Okay. So now the Swami answers the question, why does Brahman cause Prakriti? Why does Brahman cause Prakriti, or existence? All of mind and matter. Remember the definition of Prakriti, all of mind and matter. Why does Brahman cause Prakriti? This is a question that cannot possibly be answered in terms of any man-made philosophy. For the human intellect is itself within Prakriti and therefore cannot comprehend its nature. And that's why Sarvapriyananda simply answered, because it can. You know? A great seer may experience the nature of the Brahman Prakriti relationship while in the state of perfect yoga, but he cannot communicate this knowledge to us in terms of logic and language because, from an absolute standpoint, Prakriti does not exist. It is not the reality, capital R, and yet it is not other than the reality. It is the reality as it seems to our human senses, the reality distorted, limited, misread, fragmented. That's a term that I like. It's all there. And when you recollect it through the process of prayer, contemplation, concentration, and meditation, when you recollect the fragments and bring them together, then you see the whole picture. You see what can be seen with this, the equipment that is available through this spacesuit. It's called Savikalpa Samadhi. It's an experience. It's still within time, space, and causation. But it is what Jesus was pointing to when he said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." In other words, directly experience God. And this purity of heart means that you have dispelled enough of the distractions to recollect the truth behind the distractions, and it becomes a unity, and you perceive it. That's why the Swami meant by a seer may see this in meditation. Anything that anyone wants to say or ask about that? Okay. We may accept as a working hypothesis the seer's assurance that this is so. Now, notice the Swami does not say we have to believe it. We may accept as a working hypothesis. In some language from here, it's said this way: you can take a stand for it. You can say, okay, I accept it. I'll take a stand for it and behave as if it is so. We may accept as a working hypothesis the seer's assurance that this is so, but our intellects reel away baffled from the tremendous mystery. Yes, indeed. The mystery of how this can both be real and unreal at the same time. As St. Thomas Aquinas said in so many words, the universe both does and does not exist. Now, this is one of the greatest intellects of the Catholic sainthood, saying the universe, and then he goes on to explain. There's a poem about it in that Love Poems from God. It's really a very remarkable poem. And the first line of the poem is, the universe both does and does not exist. And he spent a great deal of his working career trying to explicate the mystery. Lacking superconscious experience, we have to be content with picture talk. Lacking superconscious experience, in other words, that which is beyond speech and concept. Lacking superconscious experience, we have to be content with picture talk. We come back gratefully to Shelley's famous lines. Notice the word gratefully. We come back gratefully to Shelley's famous lines. Life, like a dome of many-colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity. Life, our life, our existence, our sense of ourselves and what is actually happening, life, like a dome of many-colored glass, stains the white radiance of eternity. Philosophically, they may be rather vague. It is not clear exactly what Shelley means by life, but they do provide us with a useful and beautiful image. If we think of Brahman as the white radiance, then Prakriti is represented by the colors which disguise the real nature of its beams. How beautifully said. Okay, we're doing fine for time. Anybody have anything they'd like to contribute? And now this is the time for you to think, what in your own experience has given you some inkling of this? What pulls you in this direction? Why is this important to you? That you would spend an hour of your valuable Saturday, an hour or a little bit more sometimes, hearing what Patanjali has to say about this, as translated and commented on by Swami Prabhupada. Anything you'd like to share with us about your own experience?
This is not about experience, but mainly I'm kind of thinking the first few sutras, we were talking about the 5 vrittis or the mind stuff, or how, now we're going into this description of Prakriti. Are we, and I'm just trying to gauge as to why we're going through this, and is there some place vrittis is how we experience Prakriti? Is that the link here?
Prakriti is the cause of the vrittis, yes. So to put it in your words, yes, vrittis is how we experience Prakriti. The vibrations in the mind stuff. And it is the sensation, the cessation of those vibrations in the mind stuff by sufficient self-effort that allow us to then move into meditation and liberation. That's a
So
very
if I were
astute.
to go back to,
Go ahead.
if I go back to the Shelley's poem, it seems like vrittis is the recognition of the colors.
Yes,
And if you go to the cessation of those colors, meaning we stop seeing Prakriti, the only thing that's left is Brahman. Is that where we're going?
actually, Sri Ramakrishna said, there's nothing left. He said, once the reflection is gone, there is no thing left because Brahman does not exist. So he tried his very best to explain what he meant by that. But when there is no experiencer, there is no sense of existence. And in that nirvikalpa state, there is no experiencer. So when Prakriti totally disappears in terms of these vibrations in the mind stuff, which is the definition of nirvikalpa samadhi, what happens, the state of being in which you are, cannot be described. If you want to read some of the very best descriptions that you can in more modern language than Adi Shankaracharya's, read Swami Vivekananda's inspired talks. It's in his complete works. If you don't have a copy of the complete works, I'll be happy to email you a PDF. But it also comes in a very nice book published by the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Society of New York. They're the ones who were responsible for finding these inspired talks. They were what was given after Swami Vivekananda had been in Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Thousand Island Park in June of 1896. 5, 6. I don't remember. I'm not good with numbers, so dates. So I think it was 1895. Yeah, I think it was 1895. Anyway, that June, the June of whichever year that was, he was in that state. He then had with him a dozen of his best students from the Northeast. And he delivered talks day after day. They were transcribed. These transcriptions were later found and published as that book, Inspired Talks. They're probably the best evocations of what results from having been in that state that we have in modern language. Thanks for bringing that up. Anything else from you or anyone else?
Thank you.
Brother Shankara, this is Fred.
Yes, Fred.
Good morning to the class. I guess you asked why what we're doing here, so I'll address that. What I'm doing here.
No. I said, what is your experience
Yeah, I know.
that causes you
know,
to want to spend your time this way?
I'm a big picture guy. I always take all put it there. Anyway, what I find so valuable on this journey, I'm so glad that I met you and started coming to classes, is it's seeing things through a different prism, a different framework than what I was raised in.
Mm-hmm.
It's so valuable to me, and I respect it and honor it so much, and learn from it every time I come in contact with it. But the only reason I'm doing that is because I had this experience about a year and a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something new and different had come into my life. That's all I can say. And I started reading, and somehow ended up here. And I
Well, the
find
way
it-
you ended up here was through your dear, very old friend, Jim Pierce, who's been a
Right.
member of this place for a long time, and no longer needs to attend any classes. All he does now is practice. Practice is spiritual disciplines, and practice being one of your more remarkable jazz pianists.
Yeah, he is really good, and he always was really good. I met him when we were like, this is off topic, 12 years old, and the guy was amazing then.
Well,
So
he's still amazing now, as you know, Fred, and he's amazing both as a spiritual aspirant and as an artist. Jim
Absolutely.
Pierce, Pearce.
Anyway, so
Look him
getting
up.
back to the framework. So I've noticed, I'm kind of a technical person. So I noticed the different writers and different people I've come in contact with have differences between what they talk about. There are differences there. If I was trying to scientifically hold everybody down, I couldn't do it. I couldn't tie it all together. But it doesn't bother me because it all comes back to you just can't explain it exactly right. You cannot write it down. Even though all these very learned people have been writing all this very helpful stuff down, the fact that it doesn't all tie together, I'm sure it all ties together from your viewpoint, but I can see how people would have a ton of questions as well. So-and-so said this, someone said that, but it all leads in the same general upward direction.
Yes.
To my thing, and in my life and my practice is not leading me to dissolution. It's leading me to a better place.
Yes.
So I don't know if that makes
Exactly.
any sense.
Well, thank you for sharing so straightforwardly, Fred. That's like you say, a year and a half ago, something happened. You felt you had to understand what happened. And so you've been seeking, and it's joyous that you found yourself among us. This is a place that stresses unity, the unity of our being, the unity of our experience, and celebrates the variety of our being and our experience. So, yes, thank you. Anyone else, anything?
What Fred was saying about, all these different people and traditions using different words, but it all leads to the same thing. Just reminds me of this when I was in the 60s, when I was little, we would travel from Atlanta to the coast of South Carolina to go to the beach. And that was back before there was the interstate system we have now. So it was kind of a long drive. But there were signs all along the way in South Carolina, all roads lead to Mama's Kitchen, which was a sort of a truck stop place, big, good food, good Southern cooking. And, I think of Mama as Ma,
Right.
fine mother. And it's true, Fred. All roads lead to wherever you want to call it. Mama's
That's
Kitchen.
because it all arises from Prakriti. It all arises from the same source of energy, filtered through all of these incredibly different human beings, unique. Each of us is unique. This is what's going to be talked about tomorrow. Creativity, this great creative impulse that flows through human beings and results in everything from hot rods to spaceships on the one hand, from fundamentalist Christianity to the furthest reaches of non-dual Vedanta on the other. All of it, this creative energy. And I'm not going to give it all away. It's going to be a fun talk. So anything else from anyone? We've got time. All right. So the colors disguise the real nature of the white radiant beams. Prakriti, it has been said, is the elemental, undifferentiated stuff of mind and matter. In what relation does it stand to the highly differentiated phenomenon of this apparent universe? So Prakriti is this undifferentiated. What relationship does it have to the phenomena of this very incredibly varied, complex, and specialized universe? In order to answer this question, we must trace the whole course of creation from the beginning. We say a creation deliberately, for Hindu philosophy sees creation and dissolution as an endlessly repeated process. When, from time to time, the universe dissolves or apparently dissolves, it is said to go back into the undifferentiated Prakriti and to remain there in a potential seed state for a certain period. What then is the mechanism of its recreation? Prakriti is said to be composed of three forces, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which are known collectively as the three gunas. And I'm just amazed that there's never been a rock group by the name of the three gunas. These three forces, is even, it's forces, it's qualities, it's the ability to create itself. These things, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which are known collectively as the three gunas. These gunas, whose individual characteristics we shall describe in a moment, pass through phases of equilibrium and phases of imbalance. The nature of their relationship to each other is such that it is subject to perpetual change. Now let's register that. If we sit in the witness seat, which we gain through concentration, one of the things that we notice, one of the things that becomes glaringly apparent to us, is the truth of what Buddha meant when he said, "You are not the person you were a moment ago." In the witness seat, which, as I say, we gain through the practice of concentration and into meditation, we see that our mind is constantly changing. The reason is it is influenced by these perpetually changing gunas. Our mind is nothing but a collection of prior mental impressions That's what the nature of the mind is. We assemble them, we assemble the collection of these, a collection of these mental impressions to generate the reality we sense at this moment. When things change, there's a shuffle, and we bring others in and leave others out. This is the way it seems like there's a continuity. There is no continuity. There's just perpetual change. We are generating the sense of continuity and the sense of reality or relative reality. So are there any questions or comments about that? Because this is what the Swami is about to go into in some detail. But if there's any question about what he's said so far about the gunas being in equilibrium and disequilibrium and in perpetual change, and that they are the forces that generate the nature of this relative reality we experience. If there's anything to be said or asked about that, please let's do. Okay. As long as the gunas maintain their equilibrium, Prakriti remains undifferentiated, and the universe exists only in its potential state. Now, we can't really know what that means because there's no experiencer there. There's no differentiated experiencer to know what is meant by this undifferentiated potential state. We can imagine it. I've given you one rather clumsy metaphor of a battery. If you'd never seen a battery before and you saw a car battery, you would have no idea what it is. You would have no idea what its function was. And you would have no idea that there was energy contained in it. There would just be no way for you to know. It's only when someone shows you what a battery is and how to get the energy out that you begin to understand. This is exactly what the teacher does. This is what the guru, the teacher, removes the ignorance that disallows you from understanding what the battery is and gives you an understanding of how to gain access to that energy. So we can't know what that undifferentiated state is in our left mind waking awareness. It's only in meditation that we can know. And then that knowledge is incommunicable in words. But the ignorance that covers it can be discussed and we can be shown. That's what the Swami was saying. A seer says it's so. We believe that it's so because the seer says it, and then take a stand for it, and we can begin to gain access to the knowledge that is behind the ignorance. As long as the gunas maintain their equilibrium, Prakriti remains undifferentiated and the universe exists only in its potential state. As soon as the balance is disturbed, a recreation of the universe begins. The gunas enter into an enormous variety of combinations. Another way of expressing that is a tremendous amount of vibration begins to occur as they interact with one another. This is the way the physicists put it. There is this tremendous, and it is contained, according to the Vedanta conception, within something called Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic egg. The gunas begin to vibrate or begin to be in an enormous variety of contributions, all of them irregular, with one or the other guna predominating over the rest. Hence, we have the variety of physical and psychic phenomena which make up our apparent world. Once this Hiranyagarbha bursts open and has cooled enough, it becomes us. It becomes these stardust spacesuits that we are able to wear, we the being, the Purusha or the Atman. We wear them to translate that vibration, that vibratory existence into what we sense and what we think. Hence, we have the variety of physical and psychic phenomena which make up our apparent world. Dreaming is a psychic phenomenon. Such a world continues to multiply and vary its forms until the gunas find a temporary equilibrium once more. Temporary may be billions of years. But they find this, and the physicists have found the correlation of this, as I said, when all vibration ceases, then there is this state called absolute zero, which most physicists now agree is the apparent fate of the universe. The universe will continue to expand until everything is too far apart to have any relationship to any other thing in the universe, which of course is inconceivable to us as we now experience it. It's a mathematical and physics concept. But when there is no longer any vibration, there is no longer any manifestation, and this is called absolute zero. Another term that they use is total entropy, which means no relationship between anything. Well, I think we'll leave it from there about the temporary equilibrium once more, and a new phase of undifferentiated potentiality begins. In Vedic terms, the night of Brahma. The day of Brahma is the differentiation and vrittis that were spoken of earlier, and vibration, and this this undifferentiated period begins. Any final thought or question from anyone? Okay, Tomorrow, the talk will be Creativity, the Art of the Matter, which, as you can see, is a pun. The art of the matter that we experience. The following Sunday, we will talk about Sri Krishna and the Fool on the Hill, which is what happens when this creativity finds its way into art. The Fool on the Hill being one of the Beatles' more famous songs. And the final talk of this month, all of this being related in karma yoga terms, is the wonder of your stardust spacesuit, which will be partly a discussion of Sankhya philosophy and the 24 cosmic principles and their correlations in modern science. There was a request for some, in that open forum, when it was reported back to me what was said, there was a request for more correlation of Vedanta philosophy with modern science. So that's what the rest of this month will be like. Mother willing, and the health holds, everything will go forward. Any final thought from anyone? All right, dears. Om asato ma satkamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityor ma amritangamaya. Abir moiti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless delusion to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So once again, it was always so wonderful to be together in this unity of our awarenesses and to share with you what the Swami says and what arises from here in response to that. Any final thoughts from anyone? Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Until tomorrow morning at 11, thank you, Fred. Thank you for being who you are and what you do. So let us go forward in the loving and protective embrace. Until then, Jai Ma. It's her day. We started the day chanting her hymns. Jai Ma.